Hello and welcome to another episode of Mischief Makers with me, Dave Hearn. Listener, you are privileged because you are in the presence of international superstar Adele James, everyone. Hello, Adele.
Hi, Dave.
Hello. So we're interviewing Adele today. Adele is the newest member of Mischief. Adele, most of our listeners will probably have seen Comedy About Spies and know about the show and stuff, but just tell us a bit about what the hell are you doing with
What
Mischief?
the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
I've snuck in through the back door somehow to be a part of the show playing Rosemary Wilson, who is the partner of Bernard, right, played by Henry Shields, one of the civilians who gets embroiled in all of the crazy spy business going on. I joined you guys to do the workshop last year, which was amazing, and I'm very fortunate to be here on the West End, living it large.
And very fortunate to be here with me doing this podcast.
Yes, of course. Sorry, I should have said that.
In a lovely room that we have discussed feels a bit like an evil lair.
Yeah.
But it's got lovely plants in it. So,
It does.
Yeah. It is great.
It's wholesome.
So you've not worked with Mischief before?
No, not before the workshop.
And how have you found that? Like, what's it been like coming into I'll take my Mischief hat off so you can
Wow,
speak
like
freely.
a totally different person.
Yeah. It's a different look for me. But yeah, how have you found coming into Mischief and like being a part of the kind of company and the world?
It's been amazing, actually. People keep asking me that specific question.
Wow,
They're
okay.
like, is it really intense? Like, how do you feel being the only new person? And actually, when I first came into the workshop in September of 2024, we're in 2025, aren't we? Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. She can count. When I first came into the workshop, I wasn't aware that I was going to be the only new person. And I think, so I didn't have any time to think about the fact that I didn't know anyone and that everyone else knew each other so well. But no, it's been great. I mean, it's kind of a baptism of fire for me on the comedy side of things more than entering into like a group of people who know each other very well. You guys have all been really, really welcoming. I'm having a great time.
Great. And so baptism of fire in terms of comedy.
Yeah.
So that was like, rather than coming into a group of people that sort of known each other for a long time,
Yeah,
the
that's
scarier
fine.
thing for you was doing comedy.
I think so. Well, this level of comedy and like with the extent to which you as a company push boundaries, run towards danger.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it sound like it's a bad thing. Actually, it's like really very thrilling for me. And the thing I'm kind of frequently overjoyed about as an actor is moving through different experiences through lots of different projects where I am always learning like new things and I am always being challenged to become a different or like tap into different parts of who I am. So I've done comedy before, but just not your style of comedy, I suppose, or at the level that you guys are working at.
What is our style of comedy? This is not a test.
It's just like, the only word I can think of to describe it is quite limitless. Like it's so unbelievably specific and technical. And yet somebody in a different interview, somebody else had commented a while ago, a couple of months ago, about the fact that actually quite a lot of the time you'll see something that you recognize, like you'll see a joke starting to form that you understand, but no one has ever pushed it quite as far as you guys will push it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how I perceive you as a company now, and this work that we're doing. And actually kind of like, if I think back over your body of work as I have come to know it, there is this kind of like constant topping of oneself individually, but also as a company, and the work itself, like it's, just limitless.
How far can we keep pushing?
How far can we keep pushing?
How
But
many
then very
laughs can
good
we
at
extract?
You're so good though at also being like, oh, we pushed it too far. We should probably reel it back a bit now.
Yeah, for sure. And so how does it feel then? So you're coming into a different style of performing, and you're the new fish, you little fish swimming around with all the other fish that have known each other for like however many years that is in fish years.
Yeah.
And so you're doing a new style of comedy, you're with a bunch of new people, and the process by which they make stuff is limitless. It keeps pushing and pushing. So how do you feel being inside of that do you feel that you've been pushed to a point of like, oh wow, we're still going?
We're still going. Yeah, I think I'm learning with every single show where I can like play with things and where we've discovered something that has to be exactly what we've rehearsed, so that the rhythm of it makes sense and so that, you know, we hit the beats correctly. But I think if I think back to myself on whatever date it was that we started back in September last year versus now, I feel like I've gone on a huge journey in terms of like my personal confidence and my understanding of how you create this kind of work. I mean, I'm still like, 15 years behind all of you, but I really do feel that even in the last 6 months, so many of my boundaries have been pushed for the better. So yeah, it's great.
What kind of stuff, I'm putting you on the spot now, what kind of stuff do you feel like you've learned or you've taken away from the experience of either like the rehearsal or the workshop or being in front of 1,000 people every day?
Well, the being in front of 1,000 people who are laughing is the thing that I've found so kind of incredible. It's such an amazing feeling to be in a room with that many people who are laughing. But then after a while, you also start to become like weirdly desensitized to it because it is just like a wall of sound. And so I think what I'm noticing and what I'm really enjoying is how everyone reacts when actually you only get like a little pocket of people laughing or like a single laugh. It's really interesting.
The ostrich in the audience.
The ostrich in the audience. But I think I'm learning, or I have learnt in places certainly, how to like ride a laugh, how to kind of tell the audience when it's time to stop so we can move on. I'm learning via the rest of you more than via what I'm doing, how to kind of sometimes control the cadence of the work if we need to kind of push people along or if we need to slow them down. All of that's really fascinating and very, very technical, but oddly also very intuitive. So that is, I think I've learned a lot through that. And also just like very basically, I think like how to structure jokes. I mean, I still don't think that that's a strong suit of mine. But watching kind of Henry write things overnight, come in, test them, and then hearing you all kind of feedback on like what might be the funnier punchline or that the button is actually something else and we need to move it from the middle of the sentence or from the second beat to the third. Like those kinds of like structural things I'm finding really interesting and hopefully I will take forward with me.
Yeah, great. And so you were part of the workshop and this is your West End debut, right?
It is, yes.
Wow, how does that feel?
It's really cool. I mean, I've always wanted to work on the West End. I actually did understudy on the West End some years ago. I understudied on a show called Nine Night, which transferred from the National Theatre to the Trafalgar Studios, which was great. But I was an offstage understudy and I never went on. I did my understudy run, which was technically my West End debut. But yeah, this is incredible. I mean, I feel like I've cheated somehow. I'm on a poster on tubes all over London in my hometown. Right? Yeah, it's really cool. People keep sending me messages being like, you're following me around. I'm like, sorry. It's wicked. And with such a nice company of people and such a joyous show, like it's, what more could you ask for?
Yeah, that is very cool. And so you went out, 1,000 people. How did that feel?
Really cool. I'm always more nervous off stage than I am on. I love being on stage. I really enjoy playing. I like the liveness of theatre. I like when things go wrong. I really enjoy all of that. I enjoy that kind of conspiratorial relationship that you have with an audience and the fact that it's always slightly different. But in the wings, I was very nervous and I get very, very chatty when I'm anxious.
Sure, I've noticed, yeah.
Yeah, she's a chatty patty.
And so, so how do you, does it feel, here's a personal question that's arriving. Here it is. It's coming. It's forming.
Oh my goodness.
It's here. So does it feel when you're in a new group of people, you're doing this thing that you don't have as much experience with, pause for cough, and you go out and you're having fun with the audience, you go into the wing and you're feeling nervous. Does that feel then in any way like isolating if you're around a bunch of people that are probably nervous but have all known each other for a really long time or all have different levels of faith in the material and knowing, kind of being able to predict what's going to happen? do you feel as the new fish that you're like, oh, I'm on my own here with my nervousness in the wing?
It's a really interesting question. Not really, because I think by the time we'd got to doing the shows, I mean, we'd been rehearsing for 5 weeks, and we'd been tacking for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So that's already like 2 months that we've been working on this material and developing it as a company. And I had the good fortune of being involved in the workshop, so that's another 6 weeks. So in terms of kind of like feeling like the new girl, it wasn't so much. And also, I have the straightest character, so to speak, kind of comedically speaking, in the play. So a lot of the kind of comedy pressure, I don't think, is on my shoulders. But I think I've done a lot of theatre over the years. It's where most of my experience is to date. But even on like big TV sets and stuff, like I think you learn very quickly that people deal with their nerves in different ways. And so I never take for granted whether someone is or isn't nervous. I just focus on how I can calm my own so that I don't let down everybody else in the company. And also, like, I feel like I have quite a big responsibility to the people I'm making the work with, including the crew and, of course, the audience. And so I just think my focus very much becomes, how do I do my best work with these people? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You say you don't want to let anyone down. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
Yeah, it is. And being nervous isn't letting people down either. But I think, part of your kind of professional duty, I suppose, or like part of the job is being able to go out and perform. Like, that is a crucial part of the role.
This is the basic.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's kind of like the one thing we're all driving towards.
Yeah.
So I think, and nerves, I think, are so debilitating unless you can channel them into adrenaline and kind of fuel. So yeah, I think fundamentally, I try not to get in my own head, except for the fact that I'm thinking about like what I can do.
Yeah.
And then I'm just doing what I can do to settle that and go out and do the job.
What would it be that would make you nervous, do you think, in that example?
I think it's always doing something for the first time or the first few times. Oddly, the second show is actually much harder for me than the first show, because once you've done it once you don't have that like fizzy, like, we have not done this before, you start to relax and you start making mistakes in very strange places that you've never made mistakes in before.
Yeah, I'm still doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, you and me both. I think with this show in particular, I was always really nervous that I was going to laugh on stage. And the first time I did laugh on stage, honestly, it was such a relief.
You've been doing it loads.
All right, get out of here. Not loads.
I reckon a couple of times a week we get
Not
you.
that.
Yeah.
No.
But your problem is you got once we get you once, that's the show done.
I can't recover.
It's just like Adele's on a slippery slope. Watch out, audience. Because when we get it, we all pile in. That's the other thing.
Yeah, I do feel I have been targeted a few times.
Yeah. Because we have screens backstage to watch the shows, and so we can kind of, sometimes it's for queuing, but sometimes just fun to watch. And it's the weird thing we were saying actually about rhythm is the amount of times like me and Nance will be chatting in the wing, and then we'll both just freeze because the rhythm is off.
Yeah.
And then you look at the screen, you'll be like, oh, okay, this person is laughing.
Yeah.
So then but then immediately our brains go into overdrive in terms of like, if something's gone wrong in a scene or someone's done something to make someone laugh in a scene, and you're not in that scene, then immediately me and Nance are then going, okay, can we do something in our scene that references the thing that's gone wrong?
Oh, that's fun.
And like, how do we build that into the show that we have now? So if we see you laugh, it's like, oh, okay, great. You're the sharks are circling, and we're like, yeah, everyone's going to come in and just pile on pressure for Adele.
Such a tiny little fish with all these. They're not other fish; they're sharks.
We're comedy sharks. Comedy sharks swimming around.
That's quite an unusual concept for me, actually, because when something goes wrong in a straighter play, like a drama, for example, you're just thinking about leaving the dead body behind. Like, step over the body, keep it moving, pretend it never happened.
Yeah.
You're not looking for ways to like reintegrate that, which is kind of nice actually for an audience, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's because we talked about corpsing and laughing and stuff. And I think Henry Shields had the kind of best explanation of it, where he was like, if it happens, it happens, and it can often be a really nice thing for an audience, or even heighten their experience.
Yeah.
But don't look for it. Don't indulge in it, I think, is the main thing.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I don't feel like anybody does do that, but equally, and I think you can, I have seen this in dramas and not in comedies where stuff has gone wrong. And actually, it's the moment the actor embraces it, then it becomes more enjoyable, even if it's in a moment of like serious tension. Because I think by not engaging with the funny thing that's happened, or not engaging with the liveness in the room, you remove the humanity from it, right?
Yeah.
So like, what the audience, I think the reason why I always think they enjoy it is because they're going, oh, we're not watching characters telling a story, we're watching human actors pretending to be people telling a story. And there's something
which is
magical
the contract.
about that. Yeah, exactly.
That's the contract you all sign.
And so if me, Dave, comes on and makes you, Adele, laugh, there's a break in the character that the audience are like, oh, I'm seeing those two humans. And then the fun is, how do we get back into the story?
Yeah.
And you create a new contract with the audience, which I think is the fun thing. And I think that's where, we have a lot of fun with those, like, rather than leaving the dead body behind, how do we reanimate the corpse and make it a clown? And
Excellent.
like, make it fun.
Yeah,
Make it a fun thing.
That's the best description. Very good. How do we reanimate the corpse and make it a clown?
And just be like, hey, yeah, this thing's funny, right? But it's also, I think, feeling, I don't know how, I talk about it all the time on podcasts and interviews and stuff. I think it's also about creating an environment where you are comfortable with failure.
Yes.
And actually the failure is quite amusing, where you're just like, what I would love for someone coming into the company is to feel like, oh yeah, this moment's happening, it's live and it's exciting, and we're kind of like messing about and having fun, and this audience is really going for it. And you pile in with something and it just absolutely doesn't work. And we could all just be like, wow, like, well done for trying. But then also the same with us, like the amount of times I've come off with an absolute, like, biting my fist, just being like, Nance, we tried that new gag, and did you hear that it, not only did it die, it silenced the house. And like, that's the reaction you want, where someone's just like being like, wow, we've learned a valuable lesson about that moment. And so have you found, I don't know, does that resonate with you, or is it actually you've been happy to kind of sit back and observe?
I think I've said to all of you that I embarrass very easily, which is really not like a great trait for comedy. I guess it depends on what you're doing, but I am a person who typically is quite self-conscious. And so I think one of the reasons why I think, and I was saying before, that my confidence has grown is because I think that tendency that I have to be like, oh my God, I messed it up, which I think a lot of actors feel, actually, especially a lot of actors that come from drama school or drama kind of more dramatic, who have built up a more dramatic portfolio of work. I think are not really encouraged to make mistakes. We don't really celebrate them. Like, there is this whole idea that you're supposed to like make offers and like play, but then actually when push comes to shove, it's not.
You want to get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you feel like there's a lot and maybe some of it's self-induced. Well, definitely some of it's self-induced, but there's just quite a lot of pressure around it.
Yeah.
And they're quite like high octane environments to be in. Oh no, I've totally gone. My brain's completely gone.
Oh no, you saw it live here, guys. Glitch in the Matrix. It
happened.
Do
you know what?
There it is. We're back.
Do you know what I was going to talk about? So yes, I think typically I've been like someone who's very self-conscious, quite easily embarrassed, and I think that's starting to shift in me. And one of the things that has really pushed that the most. Do you remember in like week 2 of previews, Greg and I had a short scene in front of the curtain.
I do remember the scene. This was death. This was comedic
And
death.
God love you, Henry Shields and Henry Lewis, but Greg and I were both quite aware that this probably wasn't going to work, but we were going to give it a go to the best of our ability. We had to come in front of the cloth, and he was asking me if I was the secret shopper. Greg Tannehill playing Tipton, who's the hotel manager, was asking me if I was the secret shopper, to which I replied no, and we had this short back and forth. And then to finish the moment, as the cloth flies up and the lobby is re-revealed, Greg walks off backwards, staring at me with his arm out for the whole time.
Yep.
And to total silence. And me and him are just looking at each other. And then we just, without referencing it at all, carry on with the play.
Yep.
And I think doing that 5 times over that weekend really built something up in me around kind of being exposed, feeling very exposed in front of a large room of people, and the anticipation of knowing I was going to do something that was probably going to fall flat. Like, we had a few laughs here and there, but generally it silenced the house.
Yeah, that was a poor scene. But, like, that's a really good example, actually, of, like, I think that's such a good example. Because I remember, Greg would do a kind of bow, wouldn't he, and say, enjoy your stay. And the beautiful thing would be is if he did the bow, enjoy your stay, and then the curtain would fly out at the same time to reveal the lobby. It was like quite a sort of miniature satisfying moment.
Yeah.
But often it was him shuffling off awkwardly, trying to garner some kind of response from the audience. But the reason that scene was there was to give time for the scene change that was happening behind the cloth, right?
Yeah.
And I remember talking to Henry Shields about that scene, and he was just like, what should we do about this? I was like, it's poor, man. It's poor. You've sent those 2 out to die, and they know it, you know it, I know it. We either got to speak to stage management and just speed up this scene change to, like, just get these guys out of there, or we got to write some jokes. And then, but there are other parts of the show that require so much attention, and it's like, those are the moments that I think are really exposing, because you go as an actor, you go, I know I literally have a practical job here to burn time until the next scene can start, which is death for any comedy, because you don't want that. But then also going, I trust that behind the scenes, this scene is either going to be rewritten or cut, and something will change. But for now, other parts of the show need more attention. And that is a really difficult place to be in. But Greg is probably one of the best people to be in, because Greg is so consistent and jolly and lovely. And he will just do it, and he'll just die with you.
And he did, and we did every day, and it was great. It was great. In some ways, I kind of miss it. I mean, I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore, because it didn't make the show better. And I think everything that's in the show should be there to make it better, or make it make 100%. More sense, which I suppose is making it better. But yeah, it was an interesting weekend for me, and one that I don't think I'll forget.
Yeah, great.
Soon.
And also that you come out of it and you go, you're okay, right?
Yeah, I didn't die.
Yeah, and the show was okay.
Yeah.
And the show was fine. That bit's a bit shit. And it's just like, yeah, fair. Like, fine. And there are bits in the show now that we probably focus on that are now probably not as good as the other bits, because everything keeps getting stronger and stronger. So there will always be weaker bits.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great thing. And whenever I'm teaching, I always trying to give that feeling to students. It's really hard, because you go, yeah, it's shit, and you got to do it 5 times, and you're going to keep doing it until the people that write this thing come up with something better, or someone comes up with a solution. But that's part of your job now. And then when it does change, you're like, oh, thank God. But actually, you're fine, and it is fine. And it's just a bit awkward, and the audience are like, oh, weird. But they probably don't even think about it either. And it's that, like, kind of being able to put your ego aside for a bit and just be like, oh, it's okay. But there's no way, I don't think, to truly experience that unless it's in front of a big audience or a tiny audience of like 6 people. Like,
yeah. Like, I'm gonna be honest. It feels the same way. And this sounds really odd, but like that feeling I have had before, but in like a rehearsal room, when you've got like, I don't know, the artistic director and like the costume
Yeah,
woman.
like an
And
outside eye
you've
who's
just
not
got,
usually there.
5 people there, or like people who have seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Who aren't really that like they're looking for like the minutia now. They're not really interested in like the story as a whole
Yeah,
or whatever. And you do something, you're like, this is so bad, and we just haven't had time to get to it yet, and we will. So I think it's like I don't think it is unique to comedy or to being in front of a big audience, but I do, I do think it's in those extremes.
Well, comedy feels much more exposing because the feedback is so immediate, or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
Yes, as
And
the
so
case may
it's
be.
like, you're like, oh, we know. And sometimes that scene might go in, and you and Greg might have stumbled on something funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, oh, great, we've actually got something here.
Yeah.
And like, we had that in Grown Ups with, I think I told you about this. In Grown Ups, we had to do this big scene change, and there was an issue with set design, and it wasn't quite working how everyone thought it would work, and it didn't quite fit in the ways that it needed to fit. So there needed to be this big scene change. And the opening of the show was me coming out as the headmaster of the school to deliver essentially like a sort of funny speech. And then during one of the scene changes, we were like, the scene change is taking several minutes, and it's either going to be like during previews like a show stop or like a pause for the audience.
Yeah.
But Kirsty, the director, was just like, Dave, can you come out as the head teacher and just do some business with the audience?
No way.
And I was like, how long? And she was like, hopefully 2 minutes. It could be up to 4 or 5.
Oh, that's
And I was
awful.
just like, yeah. Okay. So I like grabbed Bri, and we went out as these 2 teachers and just improvised a speech. I just improvised a speech for sometimes up to 4 minutes. And over the course of that, happened for 2 weeks until we could like figure out the thing. But over the course of it, we ended up writing a type 5 and just improvising jokes every day and improvising new scenarios and just sort of desperate actually for the audience just to shout something out. Because I was like, we are just stood here, like I am just talking and improvising for a really long time. And that was so exposing. And I really remember being like, this is death. But if I could extract one laugh from an audience, I'd be like,
worth it.
we're winning. Because there's a scene change happening behind me. You guys are going to get it in a bit.
Yeah,
this has
it's
not
coming.
been written in. But yeah, I know that feeling. But then you come out the end of it and you go, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And like, it's fine. And even if someone comes up and says, that speech in the middle was a bit weird, and you go, yeah, it was, yeah. I don't want to do it. And I've asked the guys to write me something, but they don't have time because they're writing the rest of the show. So like,
I still don't think I would be able to do that though. Well, even for like 30 seconds.
yeah.
I just don't think I don't think I'm built that way.
Why not?
I don't know.
What, just
I
like
don't
the
think I'm
idea
quick
of-
enough off the mark, number one. I think I would
Yeah.
just panic and I would just go blank.
That's why you're a natural clown.
Oh.
Yeah. You would just find a different routine, right?
Sure.
You would just find a routine.
I think I'd
of
probably
like,
cry, actually. I think that's what would happen.
yeah, that's fun, and then maybe someone will laugh at you, and you'll be like, okay, wow, this is
Oh,
getting
no,
dark.
and
Like,
I'd never ever come back on stage ever again, David.
yeah, that's where you need to be. No, you see me, I've got blind confidence. It's like 4 minutes of improv with no material. Let's go.
Insane.
I'll think of something, and then, but often what I think of is quite poor, and it's fine. And then, but yeah, it's just finding the joy in that. Of being like, do you remember when I improvised? I did a whole thing about the ice cream man in the playground of the school selling sherbet, that it was heavily alluded to that it was cocaine, and that I was giving a speech to the audience was the school kids, and I was like
an assembly.
yeah, and I was like, guys, you must stop buying like Mr. Whippy's magic powder.
Not that.
And it was this whole thing where it was like the kids were, and I was like, I've informed your parents, we're investigating, but please don't continue.
How old were these kids in your mind?
I don't know, man. I was making it up. Like I was,
dear.
But I think it was like a secondary school. So
Okay,
it was like, you know, when you had the ice cream van came at the end of school and they just sold like sweets and stuff. Just the idea that the ice cream guy was just selling drugs to the kids.
Okay.
And the director came up to me and she was just like, yeah, I think you're doing brilliantly, Dave. And she was a really great director, and was, I think you're doing brilliantly, but maybe we lose some of the drug stuff. And I was like, no, that's the only thing that's getting laughs. You want me to lose the drug stuff? You write me something. You want me to go out there
or
and
I'm outta
improvise every
here.
day? Yeah, I'm done. And then we eventually did find some stuff. Okay, so we've touched on many things.
We have.
The hot question on everyone's lips. We've got a PO box and people send in questions.
Right.
It's overflowing, and when our fans knew that Adele James would be on, we've had to get a second PO box and set up a hotline. We've had to bring in people to go through them all, and I've hand-picked some questions.
Okay.
But one of the main questions that's on everyone's lips is you're obviously very experienced and you've done lots of different jobs, worked in lots of different media and theatre and TV and stuff. But how does your experience with Mischief differ from your other experiences?
Ooh, that is a great question. To be honest, I think all experiences differ from all other experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one TV set is not all TV sets. One theatre job is not all theatre jobs. But I think probably the biggest difference with this company is the sheer amount of creativity and playfulness that is embedded in the entire process, even once you've opened the show. And the amount that things can change. Like, there are scenes that we have in the show now that were not there first preview, like entire scenes. And that is incredibly new to me. I mean, I've been in situations where I've turned up on set and I've been handed a new scene that I need to do in the afternoon. So I guess it can exist. It does exist a bit more in the kind of film and TV world, but also you get do-overs. Yeah. That's not someone going, do you want to take that out in front of 1,000 people tonight? Can you remember it? Yeah? Great. Yeah. All right, let's go.
We've got some new gags to try out.
Yeah, so that kind of like thinking on your feet and quite literally just like flinging yourself into a void is quite new for me, or quite different for me, or more intense than it has been in other jobs.
Yeah, exciting though, right? And how have you found the physicality of the show?
Yeah, good. I think I've lucked out a little bit. I'm doing a lot of running around. Yeah. But not nearly as much as yourself.
I do. I've been known to run around.
Yeah, not nearly as much as yourself or Charlie or Nance or Chris. So, yeah, I think I'm finding it good. It's, I'm getting my steps in every day. And actually, like all theatre, there's a kind of inherent physicality that is required. Like, it's quite a big frame, and it's a huge stage as well, that particular theatre, the Noel Coward. So yeah, there's a kind of inherent like largeness to it that I'm just really enjoying.
Great. And so I've got some standard questions coming up for you. Brace yourself. So tell me about, give me like a favourite line, favourite joke, or favourite like moment from the show that you're able. No spoilers, please.
No spoilers.
Thank you. For those of you that haven't seen the show, book your tickets now.
Book your tickets. Well, I have two favourite lines actually, because I realise there's one line that I laugh at every single day without fail, which is Henry Lewis coming on as Douglas Woodbead and saying, "Hello, Douglas Woodbead," and he goes, Greg goes, "The Douglas Woodbead." He goes, "Yep." And he goes, "The cricketer." He's like, "Nope, that's the other Douglas Woodbead."
Yes, yeah.
And it makes me laugh
he does that
the
very
same
well.
way every single day. It's such a clever, it's such a clever little moment. But my other favourite line is Greg Tannehill as Tipton being asked if he's seen Rosemary, which is my character. And he says, "The woman or the herb?"
Yes, the woman or the herb. I think we're going to have to get that on a T-shirt.
It's so good.
It's such a great line.
It's so good. I need it plastered everywhere.
But it's also Greg's face. He does a sort of like 1,000-yard stare where he's like considering the differences between the woman and the herb.
It's when Shields then replies, "Have you seen Rosemary the herb?" And he's like, "No."
No, he's seen neither today. Yeah, it's so
but he's
good.
like kind of disturbed that he hasn't seen the herb for some reason.
Well, yeah, he hasn't seen Rosemary the woman. He has seen neither, but he still specifies the woman or the herb. But he knows he has seen neither. It's a multi-layered gag.
Everything about it is
it's
so
very
silly.
Good. Yeah. Do you have a favourite bit of the show that you like to do that you're like, oh man, this is guaranteed every day?
I do really enjoy MI6, which is our very first scene. I think it's a really nice opener and the audience are always really receptive to it, which just feels good, to be honest. And I wouldn't have said this in rehearsal because the last scene is always the hardest to rehearse. But one of my favorite scenes now is the Wharf, which is the very last scene that we have in the play, which is obviously like a big resolution in a lot of ways. And I think it's just because I never really get to be on stage with so many of you. Or at least we're on stage, but we're not together. And so it's just nice that we all get to kind of act together for a bit.
Gets to be a big old team.
Yeah.
That is nice. And final question. If you could spy on anyone in Mischief.
Oh, not that.
And they wouldn't know, who would you spy on?
Greg, because I think Greg might actually be a spy.
Yes.
I want to know what he's doing.
A lot of people say Greg.
Yeah, I want to know what he's getting up to.
Greg's a mysterious one. He's very private about his private life. And you're like, I want to get in there, find out what he's doing. Yeah.
So I'm going to put my invisible cloak on and I'm going to spy on Greg.
Nice. You've got a cloak, so you're going to physically be there. You're not going to remotely spy.
No, I want to be all up in it.
So you're
also because when
in
his
house. You're
watching over him while he sleeps.
Yeah, nice.
No, because at the moment that he does something really strange, I'm going to be like, ha! I knew it.
Okay, what would you class as really strange?
Don't know. We'll have to TBC on that one.
I think Greg goes home and I think Greg is a series of dozens of clones of himself. That's the only way.
Is that why he always has so much energy?
He has so much energy. He's so consistent. And like he is so generous on stage. He's so wonderful. And he has, because he's a bunch of clones.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah,
there are 7 of him and we get a different one each day.
Yeah. And then he goes home, powers one down, powers another one up, comes in. He's like sort of multi-layered Severance is how Greg lives his life.
Greg, we love you.
Amazing. You would spy on Greg. Well, I think you might be the second or third person to say that.
He's an interesting guy.
I think Shields' was Jono.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to just see his life. Or Harry Kershaw. These are all great.
I actually also would spy on Nance. Because I imagine it's a completely different, it's like the polar opposite of Greg. I imagine it's like chaos and fun and whimsy. And
I get a lot of insight into Nance's life.
Do you?
Yeah, she messaged me a lot about stuff that's happening. So I think
you're not going to go. You're already in.
I'm sort of already spying on Nance. Yeah. Well, Adele James, thanks very much for coming to talk to me, Dave Hearn.
Thank you.
I'd like to have a cool sign-off line. Let me think. Nathan, do I need a cool sign-off line?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't have one prepared, so you take a minute.
Okay, a cool sign-off line. What's a cool sign-off line? Thank you for listening. Good night is probably the classic. Thank you for listening. Good morning, assuming that you've just woken up.
You could say good morning, good afternoon, good night. Then you've covered all bases. It's not very cool, though.
No, that's true. I think, audience, send us in some cool sign-off lines. And then what would be really funny, Nathan, is if this could cut off in the middle of this sentence.